But you work, of course, do a lot of work, and have done, and still do, with UNESCO and UNICEF,
yes,
particularly.
Yes.
Looking at it from the outside, it's difficult, I suppose, for the outside observer to understand, comprehend, how effective these organisations are. They always seem to me to be great big corporate organisations, in a sense, that are too unwieldy to do much good. Is that a fair assessment?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I think that, of course, they're very easy to criticise and very easy to destroy. And it's a miracle that they exist. And people often criticize the United Nations in general because they get annoyed with what transpires in the Security Council or the General Assembly in New York, which is really like quarreling about something goes on in a shop window. I don't see how these things could function differently once they're democratically constituted. What UNICEF and UNESCO and the World Health Organization and such things do is what goes on inside the shop, which people don't usually see, and which are conducted, obviously they are open to criticism, anything that size is. But they do an extraordinary amount of very valid work. But when you also realize that the amount of money spent by nations for children every year is roughly equivalent to what they spend on armaments every hour and a half, then you realize how much these things are necessary. And if you actually go into the field and see the receiving end, you're struck by how very important this work is, and that certain illnesses like glaucoma have been practically eradicated, that there's an enormous water program where they're actually digging far deeper in certain parts of the world where people have never had the technical knowledge to dig deeper. And it's, I think, of course, absolutely essential and very, very worthwhile. I'd be much poorer in myself if I didn't do a little bit of that whenever I could afford to.
It's very important to you, quite obviously.
Oh, it's more important than anything in its way.
But you don't find it depressing, given the statistics that you've just told me about the imbalance between the amount we spend on children, say, that's only one example, and the amount we spend on the ability to destroy ourselves. Does not closer contact with this part of your work, does it not make you even more pessimistic about
No, I think pessimism is completely out of date. I think that's a romantic indulgence. I don't think anybody can afford to be pessimistic anymore. I mean, there's so much that can go wrong. Optimism is the only thing possible anymore. If you see my point. I've always thought that an optimist was a person who knew exactly how sad a place the world could be, and a pessimist a man who finds out anew every morning. That's the real difference.
Yes.
No, I'm obviously optimistic because you simply have to be. It's an obligation to be optimistic.